Welcome to another exciting Prem Connection show on Radio Zindagi. To tune in live, please go to Facebook, search Radio Zindagi, and click on the live tab to join along here. I want to welcome, I know that Auntie Renu is out today, but we do have the other half of the dynamic duo. Good evening, Auntie Kamal.
Good evening, Rohan. How are you?
I'm doing great. We have an exciting Prem Connection show today. We're super excited. We have a wonderful special guest. But before we kind of get into our guest and everything else, I thought we'd kind of talk a little bit about Prem Connection. So Auntie Kamal, what is Prem Connection?
Prem Connection is a private matchmaking service. We help you find your soulmate, and we keep it confidential. This service is available throughout the world to anyone, and that's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's for anyone. You don't just have to be a California resident. That's
right.
Great. We try to keep it confidential, exclusive. We do all the legwork with our team members, so that way you can just sit back, let us know what you like, what you don't like, and then we can kind of go from there and take over for you, right?
Right. All the negotiables, non-negotiables, we can work with. And once you sign up with us, our team will help you fill in the application a lot more and help you navigate through our system.
We're super excited that our launch is happening pretty soon. Before you know it, our site and app is going to be up and running. But I did forget to mention, in honor of Renu, just remember that on Thursday nights, if you don't have a date, you always have a date with us at 7:30 on Thursday nights with Prem Connection. I noticed something else on the Facebook page about a video competition that you and Auntie Renu were doing. What is that about?
Okay, we have a video competition where you can dress up like an elderly couple and give advice to our young couples. And whichever video has the most likes will get a $250 Amazon gift card. And for details, you can go to Facebook page of Prem Connection or Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah, the details are listed there. You can also email with your video to twoauntiesdoubleadvice@gmail.com. We're super excited for our next guest. Her name is Simi Markar. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She runs a group practice called Mindset Counseling Group. She and her team focus on supporting clients with issues relating to parenting, relationships, grief, depression, anxiety, divorce support, basically anything and everything that you possibly need. I'm really interested to see what she says. Right before she comes in, Auntie Kamal, I thought I'd ask, I know last week you were talking about you were fortunate that you met your partner and you guys have been together so many years and everything happened pretty fast. Do you think back and think if you did receive some counseling prior to marriage or kids, that it could have been beneficial?
Oh, absolutely. I think one area that I might have looked for counseling is how to raise kids. When you're young, you think you know it all, but there are some hiccups and you live in your little cocoon and you don't know how to step out. So I think it's a very good tool to have. And let's see what Simi has to tell us.
Simi, are you on? I think she's there.
Hi, Simi. Hi. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Yes, got you.
Oh, okay. There's a little bit of I think a delay with the video, but nonetheless, welcome. We are super excited to have you. We know that you're very licensed and you have a lot of great opinions that we can maybe talk about. But before we kind of ask that question, I thought maybe we could ask you, what made you get into this field?
So that's a good question. So I grew up in a Punjabi family in San Diego and came from a big family, and there were always things going on that people didn't want to talk about. And I always kind of noticed that. And as I grew up, I was like, I think that we should be able to talk about these things a little bit more. And I started to get more and more interested in psychology. And then once I got to college, I I took my first psychology class, and that was it. And so, and now I really appreciate actually the work I do in the time, and it's really helpful because coming from the similar background, like there's certain things about our culture that I can understand without having to explain to me certain things like arranged marriages and some in-laws dynamics and other things that go on for us. Yeah.
Do you find that it's still a taboo amongst Indian culture, or is it now people are opening up and coming for help?
I think the older generation that grew up in India, I think they're still a little bit hesitant to kind of come and share. There's still some fear about privacy or confidentiality. And also, I think there's a misconception that they thought that you have to have a serious diagnosis to come in for support. And I think the younger generation, they're seeing therapy more just more normalized in the media, and so they're also seeing like it's okay to see a therapist, and there's counselors at schools, and we're really trying to make mental health something that's more accessible. And so actually in Fremont we have quite a bit of the community now reaching out, especially like the teens and young adults.
That's great.
Right.
I think something that would even help everyone, I mean, that is great. I'm all for mental health awareness and taking care of yourself. It's so important, and I'm so thankful that you do that service. But I think for some people, how would you know that maybe you do need counseling, or how do you know if speaking with a therapist is right for you?
I think you would know that it's a time to reach out to a counselor if you're having trouble functioning in your day-to-day life, like you're starting to notice that your stressors are becoming more difficult to manage. Some people can manage stress really well. Some people, you'll start to see differences in your sleep patterns. Your interest in doing things might change. You're not as interested in going out, talking to friends. You kind of notice like a lower mood. And if that goes on for a couple of weeks or 2 or 3 weeks, maybe it's time to kind of reach out for some support.
So how does one find a therapist? Do they just Yelp, or is it, how do you go through this process to find a good therapist?
Technology, Google is like where everybody goes usually. And some people it's restrictive by their insurance. So it's kind of harder to kind of match your insurance to who you're looking for. So it takes a little bit of a search sometimes to find the right person. Also, people are looking for therapists based on different criteria. It could be age, it could be location, it could be, do you take my insurance? Are you Indian, not Indian? So actually like a good Google search can actually help you filter through a lot of these options. And now Fremont has we have a good number of Indian therapists in this area. And like most of us are full these days. Yeah.
That's great. I know that you were talking, Simi, about how there are some signs that can kind of tell you if therapy is right for you or something that maybe you should look into. But what about people that are maybe just starting off a new relationship? And do you think therapy is something that could be beneficial to them to help with open communication? Because just a quick side note, it's like Auntie Kamal, she met her husband, and within a couple of months they were married. And yes, it's been successful, knock on wood, but it's not for everyone. So do you think how do you know that can therapy help new couples?
I definitely think so. I'm just moving because my signal's a little off. I definitely think so. I think therapy can help because it can help kind of clarify what you're looking for. Some people want just a little bit of help, like, is this person a good fit for me? And kind of talking out kind of what you're looking for and what would be a good partner more long-term, because sometimes short-term, what we're looking for in long-term might be a little bit different.
I think another thing, Simi, that people probably think, and again, this goes to what Auntie Kamal was saying about the stigma of therapy, is that if two people do come in to a session, they're assuming that you're going to pick sides. How do you handle those situations?
How do you stay neutral?
How do you stay neutral?
So I kind of explained that in the beginning. I'm like, it's not my job to pick sides. I'm actually on the side of the relationship. So the couple is my client. So I'm not here to support just the man or just the female. Some people do think that. I think some men are hesitant for that to come because they're like the female counselor will automatically, you know, align with the female in the relationship, and that's not the case at all. Yeah.
And go ahead. Go ahead.
What kind of issues do they generally have?
So
the young couple.
Yeah, the issues can range. Sometimes it's where are we going to live kind of questions. Do we want to live near family, not live near family? What kind of lifestyle do we want to have? Do we want to invest in a house? How do we want to manage our finances? This is more for couples that are ready to make a commitment and for marriage. But I think earlier in the relationships we're just looking at compatibility things, like how do we want to spend our time, like free time? How do we want to spend money? How often do we want to go on vacations? What role does like socializing play in our, you know, lives? And just trying to factor in all the things that are priorities to each of us and seeing how that fits together.
So Simi, you know, with Prem Connection, we definitely, when we meet with our clients, we try to find their likes and their dislikes, along with what they're looking for in a partner and what they're not looking for in a partner. So along the lines of what you were just talking about, so you think that at the beginning of a relationship, the more important things are just this, you know, like you're saying, the socializing aspect, you know, do we have similar interests? Those are some of the things, or can you just maybe go a little bit more into detail about some other things that would kind of be beneficial for someone? As I know, when you're getting married, financing and all that, and kids and all that, but at least at the beginning about that.
I think at the beginning, we're looking for some common interests. I really caution my early couples that like, we're not looking for someone that has all the same traits that you have, because if you're looking for that, that's going to be a tough go.
Right.
Yeah. So there needs to be some flexibility and there needs to be some room for differences. I think I bring that up a lot too. You know, personally, my husband is like a huge sports fan and I'm not so much. Like I don't sit and watch the whole game beginning to end. And so, and that's fine. So it's like those things can coexist. And so stuff like that. It's like, can we look for similarities, but also be okay with some of the differences?
Okay.
Right.
Simi, during this COVID thing,
yes.
People are having a relationship. How hard is it? And what are they coming to you for?
I think some couples are coming to me because, especially the married couples, this is a lot of together time that maybe before they weren't having, right? Because we leave, we go to work, we go to the gym, like we have plenty of things to keep us occupied.
We have a life besides the partner, right?
We have a life outside the house, yeah, without the partner. And now this is a lot of together time.
Yeah.
And so some of my couples are feeling really stressed about that. Like they're like, this is a lot. And it's been like 7 months of this. They're like, okay. Yeah.
And no end in sight.
I mean, prior to this, I know that my wife told me when we went on a 2-week vacation, she's like, this is the most time we've spent like day in, day out. Like I need a break. But now, you know, we've been together a lot and, you know, it's been fine. You know, she does her work, so it's kind of like a work day, but, you know, we still get to see each other. But I agree. I mean, those are some big factors. You know, I was thinking something else that could be beneficial to our listeners and people that are interested in Prem Connection. So let's say that, you know, you're getting out of a long-term relationship and what are some things that you can kind of work on in the meantime before you get into another relationship?
Well, so that's a good question. I just want to caution people to not rush into the next relationship, right? So give yourself a little bit of time to kind of reflect on what happened in that relationship, kind of see what your contributions might have been, what you might have done differently if as the relationship didn't work out for whatever reason. And a lot of times people will come to counseling for that because they're like, I just need to process like what happened. And, you know, take responsibility for what I did, but also kind of see what was happening on the other side.
Do they want to improve their set skills, what they have, or, you know, they feel that they can be a better partner next time?
I think people want to work, like a lot of times people want to work on communication to kind of talk about problems that they saw building over time, but kind of didn't address really, or didn't address as fully as they would have liked to. So I think there's always a learning that comes out of a breakup. And people kind of, communication becomes one of the big ones that people want to work on.
Go ahead, Anshul.
How long do you think, you know, they should wait? Is there a timeline, or is just for them, each one is different, you know?
I think it's different for everybody. It's just kind of how you recover and what your social supports look like. Like, do you have friends that you can talk to? It's just how you process grief, kind of, you know. It's like, are you healthy? Are you doing healthy habits like working out and socializing with people, getting support, like not isolating, because I think when you isolate, you may not be able to have all the outlets you need to kind of work through something. So it's a little bit different for everybody, like how long a breakup, how it affects you. It also depends on how long you were with that person, you know, with that partner. Yeah.
You know, there's, I was thinking about this, you know, like Catholics, when they get married, they require counseling, wedding counseling sessions prior. Do you think that maybe some Indian communities or other communities should take that on and do that?
I think that's a great idea, because there's so many things about like in-laws and how to navigate that, like no one talked about beforehand. There was a lot of assumptions made, you know, so there's just things that like where we're going to live, how we want to handle money, how we want to save, how we want to spend. Like there's so many things, like how soon we want to start a family, if we're starting a family, who wants to go, you know, really ambitious with their career? Is it one? Is it both? Is it neither? Like there's so many things that can be discussed that some couples are actually doing a good job kind of working through some of that, you know, before they make a commitment. But I think some counseling sessions might also help kind of facilitate some of that conversation.
So can we deviate to how do people handle children? You know, teenagers, or how do they handle that?
So a big thing that's coming up for in our office with our group of therapists is that in the community is that there's the intergenerational differences between, you know, growing up in India with some of these more traditional values where like my parents never dated. Like there was no concept of dating, you know. And so now I grow up in the US and I, at 17, want to go on a date. And my parents are like, what in the world? You know, like, it's just, you know, how to navigate. And so in Western culture and kids going to high school, that's a more normal experience where they want to go to the homecoming dance. And it's actually quite like a rite of passage almost. And so we do a lot of that work to kind of help the parents and the children navigate a dialogue and kind of work through something.
Is that something that's done at the school level, or is it they're coming private to you?
So the school level, they really can't get into too much like family work just because of just the setting and the time limitations. A lot of parents also are not available during the school day to kind of get into this deeper work. So that's when the schools will reach out to us and be like, we're going to send this family over to you guys, you know. So we have good partnerships actually with Fremont Unified.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know, one other thing I wanted to mention about, you know, for when Kamalanti or Auntie Kamal was asking about how you can find a licensed therapist, I know that a lot of companies do offer free sessions through their work insurance, and that people can look at that and see like, hey, you know, is there a licensed therapist and the provider that they at least offer a few free sessions and look at
This is great, Rohan. This is a big thing that's been happening more and more in the past 5-6 years in the Bay Area, where like big tech now is offering 20, like up to 20 sessions, 25 sessions a year.
Wow.
And that's
amazing.
Google, Facebook, Tesla, eBay.
All the
And
big
so
companies.
the big companies. So I would recommend that people look into that. And we partner with those. So we take that plan, like we take those sessions. So yeah, and so now people are even more encouraged to use those benefits through those companies.
Well, Simi, I can't thank you enough. I wish we had more time. I think that, again, I think you're doing amazing work. I'm so glad to hear that the Indian community is using your services more often. I hope that everyone that's suffering from any type of mental health illness that looks for help, because it can only help. It can only help.
It can only help, and especially now with COVID, we have stress and anxiety and some depression going on. Just look for a counselor and find someone you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and then, if you can, go to Mindset Counseling Group and look up Simi and go see her. And, we really, again, thank you so much for your time. And we really look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Simi. Thank you, Simi. Have a great
Bye.
day.
So, Auntie Kamal, I mean, do you think that counseling could have helped you raise your kids better?
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, nobody has all the tools, right? So I think having somebody like that on a general level, I think is a plus. I mean, you can't lose out. Like she said, I mean, luckily I grew up in the West, but if I had that issue, but I could have learned from other stuff that, I didn't have the opportunity, but I think it's a plus.
Yeah, I mean, like she was talking about the dating aspect. I mean, dating is so prevalent now with these kids these days that, if a family does have the traditional values, I think something like, Simi, a licensed family therapist, could really help breach, the different generations and help understand to figure out where there is. So that way you don't see rebellion.
Definitely. I think, now I have grandchildren, and I'm sure that I'm going to find that, and maybe, I can find some help through these people and learn from them. So
yeah, I mean, today was a great show. I want to remind people about the Facebook or the video competition, excuse me. Remember, we want you to dress up like an elderly couple. We want you to give advice to a younger couple, be your own therapist, and give advice to the younger couple. Submit that to 2auntiesdoubleadvice@gmail.com. We'll put it up on our YouTube page. Whoever gets the most likes will get a $250 Amazon gift card. So if you didn't get your deals on Prime Day, we'll give you that extra cash so you can get what you need. And really appreciate it. Auntie Kamal, do you have anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think it was a wonderful show, and I really learned quite a bit from Simi. And I think it was an amazing show, and I can't wait for next week.
I can't wait for next week. Auntie Reina will be back, and I'm sure she's scouting for more people to add to our database, Prem Connection. And on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.